Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Sorry for the delay. So let's get started. So till now we have covered constructors. We know why do we need constructors, correct? We need constructor for initializing the object state. We know how to perform constructor overloading, and we also have an understanding of like how constructor reduces the lines of code or how it helps us to initialize the object state. So till now we have discovered this and we know the syntax for creating a constructor. We have tried few examples as well. So now today's topic, as I have mentioned, that we are going to learn about this keyword, correct? So we'll see what is this keyword, why do we need this, what is the purpose of using this, and is it really needed or not. So let's get started. So yesterday what we were doing, we created three objects. So we created three objects, and as soon as I create these three objects, a constructor is called, and in our student class there was no constructor, so by default a constructor was created and that was called at this time. But when we moved and when we created a class called as student2, in that we introduced 3 to 4 constructors. So if we have at least one constructor, then we know that default constructor is not going to get created. So we all know about this stuff. So you know the use of constructors. Yes, so use of constructors are, we can provide some data to it and behind the scene it will initialize our object state, correct? Yes. So now it is been said that whenever you give parameters to constructor like this, the name should be same as your state name, so that it is easier for the reader. So first let me change this, then we'll understand this. Yes. So now if I make constructors like this, like for example this constructor takes 5 parameters. First parameter is string name, then string email, long phone, int age, and string gender. Now isn't it much readable than the previous one? It is definitely much readable than the previous one, correct? And now it also helps the reader to give an idea that okay, this constructor is going to initialize the name, email, phone number, age, and gender, because you know that these 5 lines are doing the same task. So it will be beneficial if I provide the names or to my variable same as the name of my object state, correct? So it will be helpful, correct? So it is been said that always create a constructor by giving the parameter the name same as the state that they are initializing. So for example, n was initializing the name, so I can say string name, string email, and long phone, and so on, correct? So this kind of writing the program increases the readability of your code, correct? So let me change this. Okay, so I'll make it as name, I'll make it as email, I'll make it as phone, and I'll make it as age, and the last one I'll make it as gender. Now there will be an error because you know that there is no n, so we'll change it to this. Now this point you have to understand. Okay, so let me, yes. So now if I run this, okay, I have given this values to this first student. Okay, so let me comment this student for now. Yes, so we are having only one student. I have initialized the state of that student, like we have tried to initialize. Yes, so we have tried to initialize a object s with 5 values. and we are assuming that these 5 values are going to get stored for that particular s or particular instance variable like name, email, phone number, age and gender. So if I try to print this, okay, let's see what value do we get. See, we get output as null. Can you see this? Because the default value for string is null. So now your question will be, why it is giving us the default value? We have initialized it. If we are not initializing it, then it's okay, but we are trying to initialize it. But what happens behind the scene is this name. Okay, so always the preference is given to the local one. Okay, so yes, so these are the local variables. So inside this curly braces, so for example, I have variable a over here and variable a over here. So inside this curly braces, if I call a, which a it will call? It will call this a because it is closest to it, correct? Or it is the one that is inside this curly braces, or that is declared for this particular method, correct? So the local variables are always given preference over the global variable. Am I right? So let us relate it with a real-time example, and I hope this will be clear to you all after this example. So let's say when you were in school, your teacher asks you to provide some or to give a phone number. So you used to give a phone number of your parent, correct? But now after the session, if I ask you, give me a phone number, will you give your parent number or yours number? You will definitely give yours number, because when you were young or when you were child, you didn't have any mobile phone or any mobile phone numbers, correct? So you gave your parent number, but now you have your own mobile number, then you are always going to give your own mobile number if someone asks you to give a phone number. Am I right? So you are giving preference to yours, correct? So that's the reason why over here, if I call name, it will say I have my own name. Why should I give my parents' name, or why should I give the name that is declared outside my braces? Why not call this one, correct? So if I call email, it will call this one. If I call phone, it will call this one. Am I right? Yes. So this is how the preference is given. Am I right? Yes. So we have related it with our real lives. Okay, so now what happens over here? I am trying to initialize name with name. So first this name, okay, whenever I say name, which name is going to get called? This name. Whenever I say name, again this name, sorry, this one. Yes. So if I try to initialize name with name, see, can you see this name is initialized with itself only, not this name. Okay, because this name is shadowing its parent name, correct? I hope it is clear to all, and if you are getting confused, you can ask me in the live chat box. Till then, I'll just again explain you this. So I am saying that initialize email with email. So now it will ask, where is email? I'll give my email only. To which value I want to initialize, I'll give my value only. So this email is again getting initialized by itself. We are not at all calling this name, this email, this phone number, this age, this gender, correct? So this is the reason why we needed this keyword. We'll see this keyword, but before this, I hope it is clear that what is the need of this for now, because what is the thing that we are not able to do? We are not able to call the parent or the global variable name if I am having a local variable name, correct? Because this name is shadowing this name, correct? So if I try to call the name of my global variable, sorry, my global name, then it cannot be done easily. So okay, you are confused. All right. So see over here, so you learn it like a compiler. Okay, you don't have eyes, you are going line by line. Okay, So first line, first statement says that call name. What is name? It will say I have my own name. Why I will give my parent name? No, I will give my own name. So you place this name over here. You initialize it or reinitialize it with name. Now again it will search where is name. Why to give my parent name? I will give my own name. So Arun is getting initialized by Arun itself. Okay, so we are not at all reaching this point. So to reach this point, we'll see how we can reach this point. But I hope till now you are getting a clear idea that why we are not able to reach this point. Because if I'm having same names in my local or in my parameter list as the name same as my global variable, I cannot call the global variable directly. Okay, because this is something called as shadowing. So don't get confused or don't get threatened by this word shadowing. It is just simple that if you have a local variable same having the name same as the global variable, then the local variable is shadowing the global variable, or the global variable is being shadowed by the local variable. You can call it either way, correct? So now let me tell you. Okay, so now first you have to initialize name with name, but now you have to initialize this name, correct? Means this name you have to call this name, at this place you have to call this name, correct? How to call this? So we use this keyword. Whenever you call this keyword, it says that there is something. Okay, we'll see what this something is, but there is something with this name for this current object. Okay, so this works on the objects. Okay, I hope it is clear till now. So I'll say that I know it is confusing for now. This dot name is equals to name. See, this name, it is obvious. If I am not using anything with it, which means I am calling a simple name, and name will always going to point out this. So I want to initialize something with Arun, but what I want to initialize is this dot name. So this will say that there is some variable, or there is a variable called as name for this particular object. Okay, so it will look that what S has got. S has got name, S has got email, S has got age, S has got phone, S has got gender, and S has got college name as well. Though college name is static, but it is still pointing to this, correct? So it will search whether this S, this means the current object, and for R the current object is S. So is there any variable called as name for S? It is there, correct? So I will say you take this name over here, which means we are initializing the state. So that's the use of this keyword. So to initialize the state, and when our local variable are shadowing our global variable, we can use this keyword to point the properties of our current object. Am I clear? Yes. So let's try this out. So I have to write this everywhere, correct? This, correct. So now if I try to run this, see, we get Arun and Arun at the rate gmail.com. So this is how it initializes the global variables, or the actual instance variable for that particular object. Is it clear till now? So for if my local variable, see this name and this name is same, so to point the global variable name over here to call the instance members of a particular class or particular object, we use this keyword, correct? This dot the member name. So this dot name, this refers to the current object. Am I right? Yes. Now I believe you mentioned that you will explain this keyword in terms of compilers. I don't understand what you are asking for. So like what I am trying to say is we are learning like a compiler only. Am I right? See, you are a compiler. Okay, let me tell you. You are a compiler. You looks for the, or the interpreter we can say. JVM looks for the main method. Main method found, you have to follow some instructions. The instructions are this. So 3 lines of instruction. First, let's move down to the first instruction. It says that declare a variable s. Correct? So let's say stack and heap. Correct? S, and here we have our actual object. Correct? And it invokes this constructor. Okay, but this s, what properties does our s have? Now as soon as I create this, all the instance variable for s have their own copies. Correct? Like name, email, phone number, age, gender, and one static variable it is pointing to is college name. Okay, so this properties s has got till now, but now I am invoking the constructor student2 with 5 parameters. So what that student2 is doing internally, yes, so this student2 is internally, see over here what comes, Arun email, sorry, arun@gmail.com, and some values for this one as well. What we are trying to do is, now you are a compiler, you are over here. This statement says that you first see this keyword. Correct? You are compiler, you don't have any eyes. You are the interpreter, JVM. Okay, you don't have eyes. So you first see this keyword. Okay, so this will give you the context for which you are working for now. So this will say that you have to work for the current object. Who is our current object? S. Okay, so I have to work for my current object. You have to point, the dot operator says that go to or point to this variable or this member. I am saying that point to name member. Okay, I am pointing over here inside the memory. You have to initialize or reinitialize it with something. All right, I am ready. Now you have to initialize it with name. There is no previous or no prefix to it, which means this name is definitely going to point Arun over here. So you have to change the name for s equals to Arun in the memory. Am I right? So I hope till now it is clear that how this keyword works. Now you are acting like a compiler. I cannot make you the actual compiler. Yes. So Suraj is asking that what is the need of declaring same local variable with global variables are there. I haven't attended. Okay. So as I said, we have done this in our yesterday's session with variables like this as well. Correct? But it was still working fine. We didn't knew any this keyword, but it was not readable. To make is readable, see, you know that the purpose of using constructor is initializing the object state. What are the object states for now? Name, email, phone, age, and gender. So if you try and give the names directly like this, so it will be easier for the reader to justify that what this student constructor is doing with only seeing or by only looking at the first line or the declaration line for this constructor. Let there be 10 to 15 lines, that doesn't matter, because by seeing this first line we can get an idea. Okay, this is initializing the state, name, email, phone, age, and gender. That's it. I don't have to look for the actual code. But previously, when it was like N E P A G, I didn't got any ideas about this, so I have to look over here. So that's the reason why constructor, by using the same local variable name as the global variable, we increases the readability of the code. Yes, so I hope it is clear to everyone. Yes. So do you need any further explanation about this till now? Now we have discussed why do we need this keyword, correct? For one context, that this local variable is shadowing our global variable. So we can invoke our actual or the objects variable, the global variable, by using this dot the member name, correct? Yes. Now what we are trying to do is, now we'll go further inside this. Okay. So now when we were dealing with method overloading, you know what is method overloading? Yes. So you know method overloading, correct? But prior to method overloading, we learned about what are methods, correct? And when we tried to invoke one method within the other method, am I right? We invoked some method inside the average method. So now your question will be, or we can like ignore this one as well. We already did this in the main method as well, though main is also a method, correct? So we invoked some method inside a method. So now your question will be, can I call or can I invoke constructor within a constructor? The answer to this is yes, you can do this. Okay, you can invoke a constructor within a constructor. Okay, but now to make sure that you are calling a constructor, you can use a this, but not this dot constructor name, because you know all the constructors have the same names. So this and the parenthesis. So this parenthesis says the number of arguments your constructor can hold. Yes, till now we have discussed that this can be used for proper readability, correct? Yes. Now we are seeing that this with parenthesis. Okay, so this and this dot is different. Okay, so this keyword we are now learning this one, and we'll see why it is used. So this is used for initializing the object state. Am I right? Yes, correct. So now let's learn this, but before this let's fix some constructors. So let me make it as name only, and over here email, over here phone. Let's follow some best practices. I do name, email. Okay, let's see what these yellow lines are saying. Yellow line says that the assignment to variable name has no effect, because we have discussed that this name is initializing itself. Okay, so to initialize the objects member we need to use this keyword. Yes, now it is working fine. So now, yes, so when we were learning methods, you said me that, hey, why to perform sum over here when my sum method is already doing that task, correct? So now the same goes for this class as well. Over here, why to do this 3 lines over here if my this constructor is doing the same task? Am I right? So can I invoke this constructor within this? I said yes, you can. So I'll just eliminate this first 3 line and I'll try to invoke this. Okay, so I'll say this, there is a constructor for this class. Okay, means this says that there is a constructor within this class that this object can access, and it expects, or it expects 0 parameters, and for now I am saying that it expects 3 parameters. First parameter of type string, correct? So I'll say, I won't hard code it, I'll say name, email and phone. Yes, so now try to understand this. So I am pointing to a constructor of this class. So you know there are 3 constructors, first, second and the third one. First constructor takes 5 parameters, second takes 3 parameters, third take 1 parameters. So we are trying to point a constructor that takes 3 parameters. Is there any constructor that takes 3 parameters? Yes, there is one. But let's check the type of the arguments that I am passing. I am passing name, email and phone. So name is of type string, email string and phone is long. So is there any constructor that accept means that takes 3 parameters of type string, comma long? So there is a constructor which takes 3 parameters string, string and long. So there is no errors over here. So I'll do what, I'll just pass my variables to it and it will initialize the thing for our current object, because we are still pointing to our current object and we get the output correct. Okay, so now let's again check it, or let's again run it by our own way. You are the JVM, looks for the main method, it is found, go to the first instruction, create as, create student, call this constructor that takes 1 2 3 4 and 5 parameters, first of type string, string, long, int and string again. Is there any constructor? We know that there is a constructor, correct? So yes, now we have to go inside this, but over here what values are there? Arun at the rate some values, correct, and some values to them as well. Now what I am doing is, okay, now you have to go to a constructor for this class that accepts 3 parameter and first of type string, then string, then long. Is there any constructor like this? The name of the constructor is definitely same as the class name. So is there any constructor like this? Yes, yes, we have found the match. Now you have to go inside this. See, this constructor call is not completed yet because we are now, it has redirected us over here. Now after completing this task, we'll point out again over here. So now we are over here. So we have passed name, that is Arun over here, Arun at the rate gmail.com, and here some numbers, correct? So now this will initialize the name, email and phone for our current object. Who is our current object? The S. So it will initialize name, email and phone for this S, and then we are again over here. So after this line, which is our instruction, we have to initialize age for S and gender for S. So this is how we can invoke a constructor within the constructor. Yes, so I hope it is clear till now to everyone. Okay, so yes, now one thing you have to make sure that there are few rules for defining or for using this. Okay, this one, no rules for this one. Okay, but there are rules for using the constructor calls using this keyword. So the rules are, see, the rules for this, you can note this down. The first rule is, it must be the first statement. So the constructor call means if I am trying to invoke a constructor within a constructor, it must be the first call. The second rule is only one this keyword. Okay, only one this call. Now the reason for this, if I can have this as the first statement only, so if I try to call 2 times, so this second one is obviously the second, only one of them can be first. If this become first, then this becomes second. So if this is true, then this is obvious, correct? Yes. So cannot use instance variable as arguments. Okay, and no recursive invocations. So you don't know that what do I mean by this, correct? So no recursive, we'll see what do I mean by recursive invocations. So yes, so if I am able to invoke this constructor within this, okay, so the first line I'll say that after this age and gender, correct? So now what happens to this is, as soon as it comes over here, it goes to this line, and this line redirects it over here, and this line again redirects it over here. So it's a infinite loop, and it is always roaming around these two lines only. So that's the reason why we cannot call the our own constructor within the same constructor, correct? Now let me try this keyword in a static method. Okay, so yes, so let me declare a variable globally, int t or int test. Okay, or let me give some values, or let it be default only. Yes, so now can I call this test over here? Yes, you can, correct, and you can initialize it too, because it's a instance variable. Can you use this keyword over here? Definitely, because is there you are able to call the instance method, okay, which means there is a object, and this always operates on objects and the current objects, correct? So this is applicable, and let me try this over here, this dot test. Can I do this? We cannot. See, because this always operates on objects, am I right? So if we can invoke subtract without even objects, so if I am saying that static stuff can be invoked without even using objects, then I cannot use this keyword inside this, because this, if I use this keyword inside my static references or static context, which means I am disobeying the statement that we have made previously, that static can be called even without creating any objects, because for making this keyword work we need a object. So we cannot invoke this inside the static constant. Okay, cannot use this in the static constant. I know this is too much for now, but yes, I'm trying to point out each and every possibilities that we can cover. Yes, so I hope it is clear to every one of you till now. Do you have any doubts? And if you have any doubts, you can just ask me in the comment section. Yes, so we have discussed what this keyword is. Now I hope that you are getting better understanding that how programming works, because now we have a clear idea about each and every syntax till now, except few, correct? We know what are objects, we know what are classes, when to use which one, correct? What is the difference between them, what are instance variable, what are static stuffs, not only variable, even the methods, correct? And when to use them as well, what is the number of copies or what is the factor of the copies that affects the difference between instance and static, correct? And we also know what are methods, so we can reduce or reuse our code, we can say. Yes, so we can reuse our code again and again just by declaring the code inside a method. We know method overloading, we know constructors, we know constructor overloading, correct? Now we also know this keyword with dot operator and this as a parenthesis, so we know this keyword as well. We know the context when to use this, and we know. Okay, so the second rule for this keyword was, the first rule was only one this, and the second one was, okay, the first one was if you are using this call to a constructor, not this one, okay, this you can have n number of calls like this, but if you are calling a constructor within a constructor, so you can call only one constructor, and also that calling statement must be the first statement, okay? And if it is a first statement, which means I can have only one this call per constructor, correct? So I can have this calls like n number of times, but if I try to call constructor within a constructor, then I can do it only once. So let me try and do this. Yes, so okay, so let me pass some values. College. Yes, so you might think that this call will be calling the constructor at the line number 30, but can you see that we cannot have two constructors or two constructor call within the constructor, or I can say two this calls, right? So it says that constructor call must be the first statement, because let's say if I'm allowed to have two calls, okay, so first call and the second call, but our rule is the constructor call must be the first statement. So if this statement is first, then this is definitely the second one, correct? And if second comes first, then the first is definitely the second statement. So that's the reason why I can have only one this statement. Okay, any other doubts? All right, so now I hope you have a better understanding that why do we need a this. We know what is shadowing, we know the data types as well, we know casting as well. Am I right? Yes. So till now we have discovered a lot in Java. Now it's time to learn about operators, loops and conditional statements, and then we'll move to strings, then string builder, string buffer, and then we'll move to oops. Okay, so yes, there are few sessions to move down to oops, but before that we want to learn loops and strings. With loops we also need to learn some conditional statements, but before this thing as well we must have an idea of operators, right? So in our next session we are going to learn, or we are going to discuss about what are operators, how many kinds of operators are there. Okay, so there are altogether 7 operators and we'll be seeing all of them, but only few are very important of them. Okay, and we'll see each one of the types, we'll see, and we'll also see the type of operations and what means, like binary operations, unary operation, ternary operation, and how we can use them. And after that we'll move to loops and the conditional statements like if, else or switch, and then we'll move to strings, and as soon as we complete all this stuff we'll move to oops. So yes, we have to complete a lot. Yes, so after this in our next session we are learning operators, and we have left some things like operator means operand promotion. So in our next video we'll be seeing that one as well. Okay, yes, learning Java is a long process, correct? Okay, so do you have any doubts, or shall I end today's meet? Because if I take operators now, then it will be half done today and half done tomorrow. I'm trying to complete it in one go, then it will be better, and then in our next session we can start with loops, because if I complete half today half tomorrow, then half loops will be started tomorrow and then half in our next session. So this doesn't make sense. Okay, so in tomorrow's session we are going to learn operators, and then we'll start with loops and all. And at the end of the complete sessions, okay, the complete core Java stuff, we can have some coding rounds, like we can practice some coding question as well, so that we get a better understanding of loops, and also we'll have some videos for recursion as well. Okay, so don't worry about this. All right, you are asking me what is the difference between variable, object and class. So just a second. All right, so now tell me, the class is a blueprint of which we create, or we can say using which we create our object, correct? So this just defines the features, it is not the actual feature. So if I want, so let me tell you, this is a student, and student have some features, name, age. Okay, I want to create 100 students, so I'm not creating 100 classes, I'm just creating objects for it, because I know all the students are going to have the same properties. So why not create objects, because objects can get the ability same as the class. Okay, so these objects get the actual ability for this class, but these objects can have some values. Okay, so now we know. Yes, so now this name and age are nothing but the variable. So we can use variable for storing some value, and these values can store our feature as well. So name is a feature of a student, correct? So name, we can make it as a variable. I can store name as Rohan, and then we need to define the type to it. So this is the variable. Yes, we'll try to take a project after completion of Java, but what I am trying to say that just by learning core Java and doing projects directly inside it won't make sense. If we have a solid framework in our hand, then it will be a better, means it will be a wise choice to go with frameworks and then learn some projects, because at the end you will be going to create projects on some frameworks like Spring Boot, or if you are into testing, then you are going to learn Selenium or any other such frameworks. So first, if you get these understandings, now see, first we are getting our core Java strong, so that it is easier to learn this stuff, because by doing this we'll have a better understanding of programming. Yes, so duration, I'm not sure about that, but we'll be trying to complete it within the February month. Yes. All right. So if you have any doubts, you can just post your doubt in the comment section, and we'll catch up tomorrow at the same time, that is 7:30. Okay. So see you all tomorrow, and thank you everyone for joining to